G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute. Today I'm joined by my good friend Algared. How you doing, mate?
Very tired. Very
Yeah,
tired. Lockdown is starting, I think.
yeah. Do you like rock yourself to sleep going, I love kids. I love kids.
Uh,
The school kids.
no,
No?
that I don't mind. It's but it is the stuff that goes around it that's starting to get to me.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. I think we've all kind of had COVID go way too long. We're all expecting it to be this 1 year long and
that's
it's
right.
almost at 2 years now and it's we're all pulling the hair out a little bit. So yeah. So
Absolutely.
So today, me and Algrid are actually going to have a look at the Redeemer. It's a ship that I've really kind of been converted on, and I really think for the events that are going on right now with Xenofred and Ninetails, this ship is almost custom made for this event, and I'm really excited to see it come into the game.
Well, look, I've got to cut you off and say, look, I was doing a bit of a look around as we were doing this, and as I started to look at the ship, I started to get more of that. Yeah, this is an absolute beast of a ship. And there's so many pluses that go with it, and so many changes that they've done as well. It really does deserve that look, but it is also shit that I am getting more excited for as well.
and it's a little different to the other ship scrutinies we've done where
Mm.
there's a lot of other videos for the stuff. This one's almost kind of run a stealth course, like completely off the radar. And literally a lot of the stuff has actually come through forum posts.
Mm.
There's no like when you like let's take the Caterpillar, we went back and we just rewatched videos. Um,
Yeah,
there's no videos on this one other than more recent stuff, and it doesn't give you details. It literally just talks about how it looks. Um,
yeah.
so this has been a little bit harder to find information on, but the information that is there, and in the places you think they are, one of the biggest one is hidden in plain sight. And when we get to that, I think it'll, if you go back to it, it's really going to change your perspective on the ship. Anyway,
I
I'll,
think that one will change your perspective on a lot of ships,
oh,
not just this one.
100%, 100%. All right, let's get over to the browser. So the very first post actually comes from John Crew, and in fact, both the posts we're going to look at today are from Mr. John Crew. Um, and the big thing with John is he doesn't make a lot of posts. So if you actually can find a post by him on the forums, I suggest you look at it. He's only got 5 or 6 posts in total, and two of them are on the Redeemer. And
And that's really important as well because he's like the head of ships.
yeah,
So if
he's
he's
on.
saying stuff about ships, it's a good oil. It's not being led down a garden path.
Mm. So straight off the bat for me, a real big visual one is he talks about the VTOL. So the actual two
Mm.
Nutcracker engines can rotate, and they're possibly looking at making them point towards the ground in this type of fashion. And I just think that sounds awesome. That's a really great visual, but obviously it's got to fold back up to land or have a special way to land. So that's something he mentions in this post. The other thing that we're taking from this
Well,
post, well, go ahead, Alfred.
with the VTOLs, he does say they're undecided. They haven't worked out whether they can do that yet.
Mm,
But either way, what he does say is those nutcrackers are integrated VTOL engines. So
yeah,
whether they rotate or not, you've got VTOL in those engines,
and this,
and that's probably a key thing to take in. But if they
yeah.
can rotate, it's going to look bloody awesome.
So this post is almost a year old at this point, though. So that's
Mm.
and you can even see between this post and the next one, which is 6 months later, how much things have changed. So the other main thing
Yeah,
we're really taking from this post is the gun sizes. So it goes through the
yeah,
turrets, the two main size 5 turrets, front and rear. They're size 5, and then you've got two smaller size 3 turrets that basically are front and rear. And then you've also got the fixed sized 4s on the wings for the pilot, and would you say the missiles were accurate? Size 8s,
uh,
two size
two,
two
two
eights.
size, two size. Basically, that's 8 size 4 missiles is
Yeah,
what you get. So two
yeah,
racks of 4 size 2 missiles.
yeah.
But
So
when you when you look at the old stats for the Redeemer, these weapon increase sizes are really important because previously it was 2 size 3 turrets or two turrets with size 3 guns or 2 mounts with size 3 guns with one
mm,
gun on it, but for wing mounts. They've now gone to size 4. Then you had 4 turrets with 2 size 3 guns on them.
mm.
Two of those have gone to 2 of those have gone to size 5 and 2 have stayed at size 3, and then you've got missiles that have stayed the same. And so those gun size increases are pretty huge, pretty huge.
No, most definitely, it's totally changed the ship. So
Mm.
comparing that onto the next post, there was things like he mentions the crew size in the last post, and in this post, it's actually dropped. So instead of being 4 crewmen, it's dropped to from 5, it's dropped to 4. And I think me and Ag were talking about this briefly before the show. It's really obvious because 4 is an even number, so you can stack the beds on top of
Mm.
each other. So more likely, if they weren't going to go to 4, they were going to go to 6 and things like that. Um, it also has 4 seats for other crew members that might like the people you might want to drop off, and basically so it can hold 8 crew members, but only 4 can kind of like use the facilities.
Mm.
Um, they also talk about how they've added SCU, like 2 SCU to the ship, and that's kind of like in similar vein to what they did to the Tanner, and it's kind of showing that a lot of ships are going to need cargo just for that daily use type stuff. I do find that rather interesting that they've gone back and added that to a lot of
Yep.
ships. They've added a lot of room for weapons for everyone of the crew, which is in line with all the vehicles and stuff like that that they've done recently. Um, they also talk about in this post about suggested modules, and the most like the one he mentions, the most likely one that they would go to is the originally planned dropship module. So just right there off the bat, you've now got a long range escort fighter, which is the default with the beds and the kitchen and stuff. But then you can swap that out and put in that original dropship module, and now whether that's going to have even more troops, so you've got 4 sitting upstairs and more downstairs, that could be really really
Mm.
interesting. But it also makes the ship, just off those two alone, in my book, Algared, probably one of the most versatile. Um, I guess the gunship, but also like
Yep.
anti-fighter, because you can come from somewhere far away, get to a station. If the module's already there, put in the dropship module, take the troops down to the planet, drop them off, do the overwatch, cover them, pick them back up, go back to the station, swap the modules back over, and off you go again.
Yep.
It allows that one stop special
But,
forces insertion shop type of thing.
yep. Now, I know that there are people who'd say, "Hey, that the upsizing guns really doesn't turn it into a mini hammerhead slash anti-fighter platform." But I think it really does change it from being just a dropship into being a gunship.
Mm,
And that's one of the things that John Crew also said, "Hey, it's not specifically a dropship anymore. That
mm,
module, if it comes, will enable it to act as a dropship, but
mm.
in its current form and its current being built, it's not a dropship. It is a gunship, and you compare it to the other gunships, and you'll see other things, but we'll do that a bit later."
Yeah, and I can think of at least 10 dropships, or even the event. Anyway, I'll
Yep,
digress. We'll talk about it in a minute. So the last
yep,
really really big one, and I ran into this all the time, is that, and where is the proof of these modules? Well, there's one in this post, but two, believe it or not, is on the main stretch goals page. The very last
right down
stretch
the
goal.
bottom.
I'm scrolling up just to show it was a stretch goal page, but the very last one is this one, and I'm going to open it up real big, and I'll just read it out word for word. So you have the ship of your dreams. The title is actually Enchants Ship Modularity. So you have the ship of your dreams, but you really wish that could be customized to suit your needs a bit more than off-the-shelf model. The new goal, a massive undertaking, is going to be of interest. We are looking to overhaul any suitable ships, including the Cutlass, the Avenger, the Retaliator, and the Redeemer, to allow many modular components to be available as swap outs. For example, and this is the key thing, they use the Redeemer as the example. You have purchased a Redeemer, then using the new system, you would have a variety of new modules available to refit the ship, internal and external, to suit your player requirements. If you wanted to make it a bounty hunter ship, you could buy a stasis chamber module for the lower deck, and you would be able to capture and store fugitives to be delivered for their bounties at your leisure. You could configure the upper deck to be outfitted with a long range communication suite, allowing you to keep in touch with your info agent. And when in deep space, fed up with bounty hunting, swap out for a larger cargo module in the lower deck to make that profitable run yet you've always been planning for a while. Or added an exploring module with a deployable vehicle for some planet-side recon. Manufacturers will be offering pre-configured variants, but you should be looking to adapt a hull to suit certain tasks. Then your ship has come in and now ready for modification. Now, the thing I'll add to that is they've actually said in the previous post, though, that only the bottom floor will
Mm.
change. So things like that, the info agent long range communication might be moved to the bottom, or it might not even be a module. Um, but just those modules,
Yeah,
they go to the strengths of some of the things you and I have said, Algared, like how good of a bounty hunting ship this would be. It's perfect for that.
yeah.
The
But
cargo. Uh, go ahead.
it even goes to looking at other ships as well. Just in terms of the Avenger, I remember we looked at that Squadron 42 vertical slice, where we saw
Mm,
the Avenger with the stasis pod and cargo area, and we thought, wow, that'd be an awesome module.
mm,
That stretch goal addresses that as well. It addresses every single solitary ship. You
yeah.
don't need multiple holes for the same thing. You just do the variants.
Mm.
Um, to me, that's awesome, but it really speaks volumes for ships like a Redeemer. Well, certainly in this case for Redeemer, and the modules that should be there for it.
So getting back to the Redeemer, the bounty hunting one, as I said, that speaks a lot to what you and I have said. But even the
Mm.
cargo, that actually starts to put it into the vein of the Raelian, believe it or not. It makes it like that blockade runner. If you've got a ship that's this gun to the teeth, and you've got a small cargo module you can push through, I can see it stepping on the Raelian's toes quite easily.
Well,
Not as good as the Raelian, but I can see it doing it. And
and
then
it's not out of space either to have a gunboat that is a freighter, because you've got the Connie Andromeda, and the Connie Andromeda is listed as a freighter and gunship.
mm,
So having that option just puts it not only a competition against the Raelian, but also more against the Connie Andromeda.
Well, it kind of gives it, like a lot of the combat's going to happen on the weekends because more
Mm.
people are home, but it also allows you to use it as a ship during the week for things as well, which I really like. And then that whole thing with the concept of a vehicle, like if you could drop off cyclones with this thing, that would be amazing. Like just like so, not only is it a drop ship that you drop people right at a base and they run in and do what they need to do, you could literally drop them on the outskirts and they drive all the way
Mm.
in underneath the anti-fighter stuff and they disable the anti-fighters, then you fly in and pick them back up and all go home. Like I can see all that. And it is starting to me sound like it might be a customizable special forces ship, but I'll digress and we'll wait and see what happens with the modules. But it certainly gets the clock, like not the clock,
Mm.
my brain ticking over of all the different things you could do with this ship. And even if it is just those two modules, which is the drop ship and the long range, even then, as you were saying to me before the show, this ship has gone to a level of versatility which is beyond pair. And I think now if we compare it with some of the other gunships, so I'll let you go on this, Alga, because you were talking about this
Yeah.
before, and I'll just follow you up. So you go where you were going
Yeah.
before.
So I was looking at the gunships before the show. So I said, okay, what are the gunships we've got? So we've got the Hammerhead. That's a heavy gunship. Now, just in crew requirements for the Hammerhead, you need 3 to 9 people to man it. Then you've got the Perseus. Now, the Perseus is interesting because not only is it an expensive ship at 675, but the Hammerhead is 725 currently in the store when it's available. The Perseus, 675, minimum crew of 6, maximum crew of 6.
Mm,
So that's in that weird spot. It's the only ship I've come across where the minimum, apart from single seat fighters, where the minimum crew and the maximum crew are the same.
mm.
Um, then you've got the Redeemer. Now, the Redeemer is 2 to 4 crew, and it's got massive guns. Then you've got the Andromeda, 2 to 4 crew, um, and
I,
I think the Redeemer outclasses the Connie.
I
The
would
Connie's
just
advantage isn't its massive missiles, but they're bespoke.
I just want to correct you there. It's more like 2 to 8 because you can have the four crew plus you can have the four just sitting in the seats. Though they're not
I,
doing
I'm
anything. You
I'm
are
going the
correct.
official
Yeah,
positions,
yeah.
and if you've got the extra people in, you've also got to ask: does the life support system support those
Well, they
extra
got
people?
seats. They got seats there for them, so you'd have to assume it does.
Well, it's seats for in that post. He does say seats for extra people if you want to carry them, or for the crew to sit in when they're not on station. So it's kind of the downtime for crew, but you could press them into service for that. So, but I digress.
Mm,
And then you've got the Misc Freelancer, the Miss, um, and that is the weakest of the gunships. It's only got the main size two size three, two turrets of size two size threes on the side. It's got a pea shooter in the back, 2 to 4 crew.
mm,
Um, but it's got a great uh, versatility in its missile loadout. The Connie's got a lot of missiles, but they're only size 1 and 2. But it's lighter on the guns. The Redeemer, massive gun loadout, not as many missiles, Then you go to the Perseus, which has got 10 size 5 torpedoes. I'm not sure how good they'll be. Plus, it's big size 7 guns and it's 2 little anti-fighter guns. And then you've got the Hammerhead, which we know is a beast. But when
Well,
you look at the... So, go on.
I was just going to say, so for me, but if you've still got stuff to say, keep going and finish what you need to say.
No, you go.
So,
I was
so
just
for
going to
me,
start talking price, so
so
go for it.
a couple of things. Well, that's the last thing we'll get to. But for me,
Yeah,
all the guns can come to bear forward, which I think is
yeah,
really strong. So if you've got a good pilot that's kind of like a hind, if you can keep all that to bear on your target, but even then, if it goes sideways, someone can take over the pilot's turret and fire that sideways. Plus, you've got all that. So it literally scales for me between 2 to 8 people, and that's seated in warp. And if you count beds, you can go 4 higher again. So when it comes around the game time, I don't think you'll be able to be in bed to warp, but just the ability to hold 4 extra people, that's your drop crew, or even if it's a makeshift drop ship at that point, so you're still using a long range module. And yeah, things like oxygen will come into play across a long range, no doubt, Algared. But again, if it's just a drop ship and you're going from station or major ship like a Kraken down to a planet, it's not going to matter.
yeah.
Well,
Well, you say Hammerhead down to a planet, since originally it was planned as being the Hammerhead dropship. And in my notes, I actually had not a dropship anymore, but those extra sheets do make it a mini dropship, even if it doesn't have a module. So
The one last thing that a lot of people forget is those little bumps or shield nipples across the top. This ship has a huge shield, and that's also kind of mentioned by the large power plant. Like for the size of this ship, you're getting a large, it's literally not much bigger than a Vanguard, yet it's getting a component that's usually reserved for something like a reclaimer or larger, like one of those larger industrial ships. So that is going to be real powerful shielding, but obviously its weakness may come around. And ironically, I think the ship that's coming out with it, the Ares Ion, I think that may be its weakness. If that thing can get up close and just put a lot of bullets through the shield, that may just really stuff around with it, Redeemer.
As we've said with the Ares in the past, they're not capital ship killers.
No.
But they are large ship killers, and this is a large ship. I think the Ares are gunship killers. That's their goal. Their goal is to hunt down gunships that are causing grief, and that's Connie, Misc.
Yeah, I think we'll very clearly see what their role is with Xenothreat and Ninetales, if they are still running, when this ship and both Ares has come online. I think to me, I think the Ares is more of a ship killer, and I think the Ion may just sit back and say snipe the Ares, oh, not the Ares, sorry, the Idris, but we'll see. But there's no reason you can't do that in this ship either. That's the cool thing about those size 5 turrets is you could put cannons in it and just sit back and snipe. So I'm interested to see where it goes.
And that's the other thing, like those size 5 turrets, because the way they've talked about that ship balancing thing, they are anti-ship turrets, but they're also small enough that they're still, I think they'll still be usable against the larger fighters at least. And those smaller turrets, you still got those, and they'll easily take out the lighter fighters. So this becomes a really versatile ship, I think.
Well, you've also got to look at the engines, because the engines are meant to give it a lot of maneuverability. And the only thing I can go by there's several anime ships I've been linked and looked at that have the same wings, and every single one of them turns on a dime. So I even start to question things like scatter guns. Could that actually be a thing on the turrets, like that can just blow things away because they're of the way they work? Algared, I think one of the reasons we did this video is to recommend CCUs to people, because we know that we're both expecting this ship to jump quite drastically, because it seems too cheap for what it is. Now, one of the things we probably don't quite agree on is exactly where it's going to land, but I think we will both agree that it is going to jump. And it is going to jump probably more than what like we saw the Andromeda and the Taurus drop by $40. So I think you and I would both agree it's at least going to do that.
It's going to be at least that.
Yeah, and I'll tell you where I'm thinking, and then Algared can tell where he's thinking. I always look at things like, so Algared does this as well. Algared looks at the other ships in the category and see where it fits, and that's the first thing that I look at. The second thing I look at is I look at clusters of ships, because they like to cluster the CCUs together. Now, so for me, the two big price points where this will jump into is 310 and 350, and that's based around because they want you to clump in with the other ships so you can't upgrade to them, or it's behind them far enough that you have to take a big jump to get to them. And so I think it's either going to be 310, which makes it a $60 jump, or a $100 jump if it gets to 350. But you got to remember, the ship that this was kind of when it came out was the Vanguard, and it's almost twice the size of the Vanguard now. You know, where Vanguard's like a 2-person ship, this is a 4-person ship. And you can, I don't know, Algared, you tell me, do you think you can look at this ship and see it as a bigger Vanguard?
No, because it's not a dropship. Is it the?
Well, it is. It is in one. No. It is in one configuration.
Yeah. So, yeah. Is it a heavy fighter? No, because it's a gunship. It's the heavy fighter is, I think, is more geared for taking out, you know, being able to deal with fighters. This is more dealing with the heavier ships. I do think it's just
where the Vanguard, it's the pilot that really has the gunning. This is more like the turrets have the gunning. So that, yeah, okay, I get where you're coming from. Yeah.
And I think that actually makes it better than a Vanguard, because as we were talking about before, that you're in a Vanguard turret and it's like pew 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 pew. Oh, I'm not doing anything.
Yeah. So you've got.
Whereas in
what I was saying to Algared before the show is, you've got 4 size 2s on the nose, and you've got that size 5, and you're back in that back turret on the Vanguard, and you just feel inadequate as hell, because you've just got 2 size 2s, and he is outgun you in every single way, and you just feel like you feel like a sucker fish underneath a shark or something. You just feel like you're along for the ride.
And when you're in a ship like that, and you're in a turret, the pilot's zipping all over the place because he's going for the target, because he's got the killing power. Which means you're disorientated all the time because you can't target anything. Yep. And that's one of the things I found with the Hurricane. If you're in the Hurricane turret and the pilot's upped his guns and he's trying to shoot things, it becomes really hard. But if the pilot's actually working with you, it's a lot of fun for a turret guy. And as a pilot of a Hurricane, I had a lot of fun.
And that's the thing. The pilot will always put the strongest guns forward. So if you're in a Vanguard, he wants to put his guns forward because they're stronger.
Yeah, and he needs to put his guns forward.
That's it. And a ship like this, or a ship like the Hurricane or the Hammerhead, the pilot is going to put you first. So I just think it's naturally funner. And I think maybe that's a problem with the Vanguard. I even said to Algared, what if they gave the size 5 to the turret? But I digress. But you get what I'm getting at. Look, Algared, the last thing, because we kind of jumped it and missed it, where do you think it's going to fall price-wise?
Look, I only did the look at the price of the ships, you know, before and under it in terms of the gunships, and I looked at it and said, okay, Perseus is 675, Connie Andromeda is 240. It has to go somewhere in between, and I went maximum price 400, minimum price around 350, 325, 315. So I in the same bracket, but my reasoning for going high was literally just because of that price point. But when you look at the groupings and where everything else is, it is more likely, I think, to be around that 350 mark.
While I won't kind of shoot down the 400 price tag, we're going to crazy town if it goes that high. But because that puts this ship equal with a Reclaimer, which is kind of, and we have seen ships that are smaller, like a Prowler, go past the Reclaimer, and that's alien tax and whatnot. But I think you would agree with me, this ship is better than a Prowler, so I could actually see it, you know, go up to that type of price point. But I hope we're wrong in that regard.
I hope we're wrong, and I like I said, that would be my absolute top, and only based on the price of the Perseus. Based on everything else, I'd expect it to be a lower price point, but we're talking CIG, so who knows?
Yeah. So some the real takeaways that I just want to go back over them really quick. The crew sizes fall, cool looking VTOL, guns overpowered as hell. The CCU, look at picking one up because they look like they're going to go up in value. So if you don't have one, it might be a way, even if you don't like the ship, it may be a way to save a bit of money. All right, so that's one thing I want to put out. And the increase of size in modules, I don't think that can be overestimated. Like the size of this ship and the fact that it's got large modules is scary. And the other thing, Algared, we were talking about today too, is how they're bringing all the modules down in a lot of other ships. Do you want to go over that real quick?
Yeah, so if you look at the, I'll have to pull up that sheet because I
Well,
can't remember it.
you were talking
But when you
about.
look at the,
Go ahead.
they were talking about the refactoring of shields and weapons, and one of the things I noticed was that whereas people complained about when the arrow lost its 2 shields and went down to 1 shield, um, what you find is in the shields, a lot of the ships, a lot of those small fighters are actually losing their shields as well. So the sabers going from 3 size 1 to 2 size 1. The
So,
razor is going from 2 size 1 down to 1 size 1. Same with the 85X. So a lot of those fighters that had 2 shields are going down to 1. So they're
so
actually pulling that back.
across the board, what that looks like, Algared, is it looks like they're buffing the shields but reducing the number. That's what I'm
Yep.
taking away from it. And if
Yep.
they're buffing them and this thing's got a large,
Yep.
that's kind of
And
scary.
and the other thing is the Connie Andromeda has also has gone from 2 size 2 up to a size 3, which
Mm,
is a large. And
yep,
so it's going to be at least on par with a Connie,
yep.
and I expect even better. The other thing to note is that the Connie Phoenix was always said to actually have a larger power plant to power its
Mm.
large, its extra modules at the point defense turret. This has actually been said. It's going to have that larger thing to power the guns,
Well,
and that's an important feature.
it might be a bit of foreshadowing what will happen to that ship. So, all right. So I think that's kind of wraps it all up nicely. I'd really like to know what you guys think of this. It is one of those polarizing ships because a lot, like if I talk to a Cyrus, he's now just starting to get past the Nutcracker wings and he can see the appeal of this ship. But you get people like Osiris that just can't get over that. Like they hate the engines, and I think
Oh,
it polarizes the community. You either love them or you hate them, and I love them, and there are others I know that hate them. So and it tends to be that's almost what leads this ship. It like blinds people to what
yeah,
it could be, and
absolutely.
and I look for me if it falls where I think it's going to fall, it's probably going to be the most used combat ship gunship in the game because of its versatility, because of those
Yeah,
modules.
and
It's kind of like the caterpillar of the
and I
daily.
think
Hang on, it's kind of like the caterpillar of the daily drivers, essentially. Master of none, but like just the flexibility. Anyway, you want to say?
I think in gunships, I think you're right. It'll probably be one of the most versatile because it kicks butt over the Andromeda and the Freelancer, which are 2 to 4 crew as well. Whereas if you go to the Perseus or the Hammerhead, you've got not you need not 3 to 9 crew or 6 crew. Whereas this
You,
is a maximum of 4. It to me that's a no-brainer.
You gotta expect that though, because this is not cargo
Mm,
dedicated, and even when they give it, if they give it that cargo module, it won't
mm.
carry a shadow of what those can carry. So you have to expect that its
Yep,
primary function, which is the guns, is just going to beat the others. So yeah,
yep.
but yeah,
Whereas the Andromeda is a freighter gunship, this will be a gunship would become a gunship freighter.
mm, yeah, exactly,
If that makes sense.
exactly right. Yeah.
Um,
Mm. All right, then.
yeah,
I
I,
think we'll. I think we'll.
before you cut off, I've got to say I'm one of these people. I always like the look of a ship,
Mm.
but I've always hated the Nutcrackers because to me they just don't fit in the verse.
Yeah,
They're
I think that's kind of why what CIG have struggled with personally for a long time.
yeah,
But I do think back when you and I were at PAX and they did that really cool intro movie, if you can look that up, PAX 2014 Australia, they had these really cool lightning between. They like the crowd just went like roared when that went
yeah,
off. And it was just yeah amazing. So anyway,
yeah.
yeah, like this video. Let us know what you think of the Redeemer. If you like what we do, subscribe, follow us on Patreon. If you don't like the video, then dislike the video. That's
Be
totally cool
polite.
with me. Be polite. Tell us what you think. That
Tell us what you think, but be polite.
yeah, there are some people that tell us what they think and disagree with us, and that's fine. And then there's people that rant and rave at us, and we just kind of keep walking. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this ship, and I'd really like to know what you think. And I think definitely right now with the event that's on, I'm very keen for this ship in Nine Tails and Xenothreat. I think you're looking forward to it as well, Algrid, or
I think just having had a look, I've always liked the ship, but looking at it, I'm going, bring it on, bring
I'll
it's
agree with
just
that
such
one.
a freaking awesome looking ship. On
Yeah.
paper, like I said, on paper it kicks butt over the Andromeda and the Miss. Um, and I think it's even better than a Perseus just because the Perseus needs so much crew. But anyway, I'm adding more. Like, subscribe. We read every comment, etc., etc. I've been Al. He's been Execute, and we're out of here.
Catch you in the next one.